Welcome to the Exhorter podcast, where we aim to stir up love and good works through bite-sized biblical discussion. Kyle, you're over there with Bible open and pen and notepad handy. What you got for us today, man?
Well, it's not a secret that the best thing about a secret is secretly telling someone your secret, thereby secretly adding another secret to their secret collection of secrets. Secretly. Yeah. Little SpongeBob quote for you to get things started, but
Don't be so secretive.
yeah, well, we're going to talk about secrets, and we've all been in some situations where we feel like we've got a secret that we keep from people, and sometimes it's bothering us, and we want to unburden ourselves. No, I'm not gonna go there. Never mind.
We'll go there for the outtakes.
We want to unburden ourselves from what has been.
I unburdened by what has been.
Come on, man. It's right there.
Everybody knows.
Low-hanging fruit.
It's right
Everybody
there.
knows.
It's right there.
Sometimes we are burdened with a secret that someone else expects us to keep, and it's just the urge to, I have something that I want to tell people, or it's like, I really need help. I learned something, or maybe we discover something. It's not something told to us, but we discover something, and we're just not sure. Should I tell someone, or is it a secret I have to keep? So we all encounter this idea of secrets, and sometimes it gets us into trouble. Sometimes we wonder, should I keep this secret, or should I expose it? What is my obligation here?
Yeah.
So I want to first just begin with the question of, what do you guys think? Is it wrong to have secrets? And I mean, just like something that I am choosing not to reveal to others.
Well, it depends on the there are. No, I don't think generally speaking, it's bad to have some information that you don't share.
That was a loaded question.
Everybody. Where do I go with that? Yeah. But I think the term secrets.
I'm not looking to get you either. This isn't a gotcha kind of question.
Sure, Kyle. Sure. I think the term secrets has some connotations to it that other words that describe the same idea, withholding information, don't have.
Yeah, context can matter. I mean, there's no secrets with God because he knows everything, right?
Well, and I think we have our own prayers to God where we confess, or we share, and we talk about those things. I think it's contextually relevant to the secret and to the effect they have on others. So if they have a direct effect correlation to other people, like keeping a secret from your spouse or something, I think that those are things that are important to share. And I mean, I think a lot of times we think about secrets as being all negative, but they don't always have to be negative. They can just be
the thoughtful birthday present. You shouldn't keep secrets from your wife, but what if it's a thoughtful birthday present or a surprise birthday party?
Contextually, it matters what the secret is.
Because one time, when we lived in Utah years ago, I started going to BioLife Plasma, and I was donating plasma for money. And I thought, well, I'll just keep this my little secret. I'll save up some money. I'll surprise Jessica with, be money. We'll go on a cruise, just as before we had kids, and we can do fun things like cruises. And so one day at dinner, I take her out and I said, well, look, I've got about $800 saved up, and I've been donating plasma and all this. And she broke down crying and upset because it bothered her that I could keep such a big secret from her, and that I was so good at keeping, like, what other secrets might I be hiding from her? That didn't go the way I planned.
Yeah.
And we can laugh about it now because, I'm putting it out there in the public
because we have
public eye, but
because it's out there now.
But yeah, so sometimes you think it's fine to keep a secret, but
it's
the
not.
other person doesn't. And
well, there's some more harmless ones like, honey, you keep making me this meal, thinking it's my favorite meal, but I have never liked that meal.
Yeah.
Your wife cooks for you?
I don't know. Sorry. But my point is there are some times that I
am going to get in trouble for that one.
There are some times where it's not like a harmful secret. It's just maybe a thought or a preference or something that you have in your head that's just a part of you, or maybe something you think is interesting. I think what is a secret?
Well, it's when you keep something to yourself and don't reveal it to others. And
But is that just your brain? Like, is your brain always having secrets? I mean, unless you're like me and literally say everything you're thinking all the time and talk so much. There's a lot of quiet people I know. Are they just full of secrets, or are they just not very
secretive people?
Or are they just not very outgoing and talkative people? Like you.
No wonder.
Are you talking about sharing everything in your brain? Does it?
I'm saying there are some things that you want to keep close to the chest and maybe not.
But does it have to have a value for it to be a secret? Is it a thought?
So it's not just any information that you don't know.
Disclose. I'm wondering, it's like what technically is a secret at that point? Is it because of an impact or value to other people?
You can keep your intentions a secret. A good example of that is in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 16. God asks Samuel, and this is a good example because it's God asking Samuel to keep a secret.
Yeah.
Or at least telling him it's okay to keep a secret, because he says, you're going to go and anoint David as king. And Samuel's reaction is, how can I go? If Saul hears it, he will kill me. He'll know something's up if I go to the house of Jesse. So God answers and says, well, then take a heifer with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord, and invite Jesse and his family. And so that way you have a legitimate excuse to be there, and it won't arise. But you don't. Samuel didn't have to tell him, well, I'm also here to anoint your youngest son as king. No, he did that secretly. He did that privately, but he gave himself an occasion to go and keep his intentions secret. And that's what God told him to do. So
isn't that kind of deceptive?
Is deception wrong? Lying, I would say, is wrong, but deception is not always wrong. And so here's an example where, God told Samuel to do this. Samuel never lied. He never said, oh, I'm not here to appoint anyone king. He didn't lie about that.
Sure.
Well, we're right back into the gray again. Look at you guys.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
Wait, hold on. Hold on, we got to circle back to deception here.
This wasn't the topic.
I'm from the Pacific Northwest. Gray is my color.
Could you be more Pacific?
Well, and there's other examples too, like, Samson, all right, tell me your secret. And every time he made up a lie, she would have some Philistines come and try and kill him. He should have known she's trying to kill me. But finally, she's like, what do you hate me or something? And she's crying to him, and he's like, okay, it's my hair. So she cuts off his hair, and he admits later, that was a stupid mistake. I should have kept my secret. So there's an example where keeping a secret would have been in his best interest.
Well, it also in that example, one of the dangers of keeping secrets is it provides you opportunities to lie. If you keep on holding on to it. He lied to her multiple times, tried to deceive her what it was. If you have that secret and you're holding on to it, the likelihood and chance that you would lie to cover it is greater.
This is why torture exists, right?
Exactly.
Because some information has value.
Yes.
Should Samson have just told her about the hair from the beginning then and disclosed his secret?
No, but I think I'm saying there's a risk. I'm saying there's a temptation. There's a risk that would be the case.
Well,
so
secrets aren't bad. Some secrets just should be kept.
That is true.
Now, Esther's another good example too, because she kept her nationality a secret. She didn't. It wasn't made aware to King Ahasuerus that she was, an Israelite. But at the appropriate time, it actually saved a lot of lives.
Well, Sarah kept her relation to her husband a secret.
Until she didn't.
Or until
it was made known.
Wrong?
Yes, but I would also
Who determines whether a secret is right or wrong?
I would also argue that Abraham and Sarah shouldn't have been in Egypt in the first place. God didn't tell him to go there. So,
but regardless, he still was in that position, and he still had to.
So how do we know
here's the difference? He lied. He lied.
He didn't lie. He said, "This is my sister," and she was. He was deceptive.
All right.
Which I was just told a second ago.
Hold on a second. That's okay. It's okay to be deceptive.
It's not necessarily wrong in and of itself. But
Kyle's
the real
gonna reach
question
over here and punch me.
What makes a secret right or wrong to tell?
Nuclear option here, okay?
No.
Deuteronomy 29, verse 29, the secret things belong to the Lord, all right? God has his secrets. There are things that God has not disclosed to us, and there's nothing morally wrong about that. Deuteronomy 29:29.
Oh,
It's,
sure,
it's one of those like good catch-all verses as a preacher that if you don't know how to explain something, well, it's one of those secret things that belong to the Lord. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. I would also say that Jesus, at times, in Matthew chapter 9 and verse 30, he healed, I believe it was blind men there, Matthew chapter 9 and verse 30. And he, let's see, after their eyes were open, he sternly warned them, saying, see that no one knows it.
He said that quite frequently.
All over the book of Mark.
Don't go tell people.
Yeah.
Don't go tell anybody.
In the book of Mark, there's this change when he tells his disciples. You see it in Matthew too, in Matthew 16, when he has that conversation with, who do people say that I am? Okay, well, who do you say? Well, you're the Christ, the Son of God. Great. And from that time forward, he told him he would suffer and be killed and be raised after 3 days. And prior to that, he spoke almost exclusively in parables. He was keeping back his true, he was trying to ease them into that. He says, up until now, you would not, I've told you, has you been able to handle it? But now I'm going to lay it on to you unvarnished. So prior to that, you could say he was keeping some things back, holding back some elements.
Yeah. I think that's strategic.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, like if I have a criticism for someone, sometimes I don't come right out and like hit them with it full force, right? I'm holding back some information. And I let it out to them kind of in small pieces.
You mean there are criticisms that you haven't told me about myself?
I told you. You should shave your beard into a mustache. That was a criticism.
It feels like you hit me with them pretty well.
That was a criticism.
Well, so secrets aren't bad.
Depends on the secret. Some secrets are bad.
That's my point is in and of themselves, they're not bad.
They're not inherently bad.
But maybe it's like inherently they're not bad, but relationships or certain relationships that you have expect a certain amount of
because there are things,
transparency and openness.
There are things I know about my wife that none of you guys need to know, and I am perfectly justified to keep those things secret from you two.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you have zero need to know those things that I know about her. Things that
you don't have to tell us.
Things such as okay, no, I won't get into it.
No, but does she have the same right towards you? My point is some relationships have that expectation of transparency, right? Obviously, marital relationships. Obviously, those that have an inherent confidence between it. A lot of times people will go to elders or to preachers and tell them something. There is an inherent confidence level to that, I feel. Even if it's not in the priest box.
Right. But does that necessarily make it an absolute though? Like I always tell people like, look, I'm not a priest or I'm not a lawyer. I don't have.
Well, technically you are a priest, just FYI.
But what about
we're a nation?
So you're saying you're not a psychologist. There's not a legal.
There's no patient confidentiality.
There's no legal
patient client confidentiality. Like
I can tell on you.
Well, and so let's kind of get into this. Like, what would be some good guideposts to keep us from, venturing into bad territory with secrets?
Because I think a lot of the time this subject comes up. It's when people have shared secrets of others. And it's had a negative effect, right? Or it's led to things like gossip and other things.
Just because I perceive something as a negative effect doesn't always mean that it actually is. Like, for instance, what if I am struggling with sin and you know about it, and I don't want, I don't know, my wife or the elders or something like that, and you go talk to them about it. Have you created something negative for me? Well, there might be consequences for me, but is that necessarily negative, like in the big scheme? No, because now the sin that I'm struggling with, I can make changes. I can improve. I can get past it and be, right with God. And so, should you share that secret in that instant? I think that you're.
Well, I think that there's maybe the ideas of best practices Kyle was getting into is there's probably some ways to do that in a way that allows you to maintain your relationships with people.
Heuristics.
And just relationships in general, like not overtly selling someone out or offending them, like
right.
And that has to do, Kyle, we've talked about this before. It has to do in the way that when someone's wanting or willing to share something with you, what you say next. Right? Because Kyle, you've done it before too. It's like someone walks up to you and says, "Hey, I can I tell you something, or I have a secret, or something rather." And I've heard you talk about this before too.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, hold on a second.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of talk about this. Like, what would be some good guideposts? I'm going to lean heavily on the book of Proverbs because it's very practical wisdom, but also understand these are not absolutes. They're general truths, which in most situations are going to be the way to handle it. But this is a very nuanced topic, the idea of secrets. And that's why I started the introduction with, are they bad? Kind of a broad, open-ended, loaded question, because I just wanted to point out that we're not going to have neat and tidy answers at the end of this podcast necessarily. It's not going to all be wrapped up tight and crystal clear, but I think we can give some parameters that will really help navigate some of the situations you might face. The first of which I would say as a general rule is don't gossip. And I'm not going to lean too heavily into this because we've done a whole episode on gossip, which I think was excellent. But Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 13 says, "A talebearer reveals secrets, but he who is of a faithful spirit conceals a matter." If you confide in me, I'm going to do my best to make it stop with me. I'm not going to go and become a gossip where I've got some news about someone and I like being in the center of attention because I'm in the know, or, look at me now because I know some things, or, that I think it's the whole point of being a gossip. And so just a general rule, I'm going to try my best to keep it to myself. And this works both ways too. When it comes to revealing secrets, it can be really nice to have someone to confide in.
Yeah.
But think carefully about who that is, because if you know this person to be a talebearer, to be a gossip, what do you think they're going to do with the things you disclose to them?
Yeah. That's a great point.
So I don't want to engage in gossip, and I'm also going to be cautious about who I maybe confide in.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a good starting point. But
so when you ask for some guideposts, I mean, there's one that came to my mind, which is if by keeping that secret you are doing harm, then I think it's your duty to share that. And if by telling that secret you are doing harm, I think it's your duty to keep it.
Yeah, you can become complicit.
Sure.
If someone drops, and I've had people drop nuclear bombs on me before, whereas like, I don't know what to do with this, what you just told me. I'm having an affair with so-and-so, but don't tell my wife. I don't want to become.
And it always happens at the end of the conversation. It's always like, boom. But
have a great night.
But don't say anything.
By the
period.
way, I'm
don't say
having an
anything.
affair.
Period.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, hold on a second. I never agreed to that.
Yeah.
Now this is going to be my next suggestion. That leads in really well to this, because that's one of the natural. That's like I said, these are general guidelines because you can poke holes in each of these points. That are valid. So we have to kind of keep scrambling to answer. Every question brings up two more questions that we have to find an answer to. And that's a really good one, is what if you feel like concealing? I don't want to be a gossip, but what if I feel like it makes me complicit? Well, here's another good guidepost. And you kind of alluded to this earlier, John. As a general rule of thumb, I don't write people blank checks.
What do you mean?
Kyle, can you keep a secret? Well,
depends on the
what
secret.
Is.
Yeah.
And so I've had that happen before, especially early as a preacher. When I was in my early 20s, at a church with no elders, someone comes up to me and discloses an affair, and we had no elders, and I'm 23, 24 years old, barely out of the training program here at Clovis. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Do I need to protect them? I mean, certainly the other person involved, I got to go talk to them now that I know they're having an affair with this person who's also a church member. What about that person's spouse that is now the innocent party and all? Like, what do I do with this? And I decided that I did need help. And I talked to one or two other men after talking to these people. I tried to follow Matthew 18, go to them in person. And then I said, I need 2 or 3 witnesses. And I picked the 2 guys that actually became elders a few months after that event. But yeah. And so that taught me really quick. And so you think of stories like what's his face in the book of Judges that sacrificed
his daughter?
Yeah. I sound really professional now. What's his face in Judges?
Paul said somewhere it says.
Yeah.
Right. So you're okay.
Yeah. What's his face in the book
I don't
of
know
Judges?
How to Google what's his face name in Judges.
But another example would be what's his face in the book of Matthew? No, I'm kidding.
Who sacrificed his daughter? And I just asked Grok. Let's see how fast that is. Jephthah. Yeah, I'll offer whatever comes out my door. And it was his daughter. And he's like, well, now I got to keep my word. And then, of course, you got Herod. He's the what's his face in Matthew 14, by the way. But Herod is like, his stepdaughter was dancing. He said, I'll give you whatever you want. Mm-hmm. How about the head of John the Baptist on a silver plate? Got to do it. He said it in front of his guests.
And he's like, I don't want to look like an idiot in front of all my friends. Yeah. So I said it. So I got to do it.
Yep.
Well, don't write blank checks. I think if you do find yourself in that situation where maybe you agreed to something and then regretted it, well, if it makes you complicit in sin, I think don't make it worse.
Yeah.
Just own up to the fact that I shouldn't have said that and I need to come clean. That's my 2 cents worth. But
yeah.
So as a general rule of thumb, I don't let people, I don't write blank checks to people. If they want to come and disclose something to me, I say, look, I don't tell everything to my wife, but I also don't like keeping secrets from her. And also if I think I needed to talk to the elders about this, I want you to know that's something I may do. Do you feel comfortable to proceed? Maybe you guys have a different take on that,
now,
but that's kind of my approach.
If they say no and just walk away, do you feel like you just lost an opportunity to help that person? Like, how do you... Has anyone ever said no?
Then I go to the elders and say, hey, you might want to have a conversation. Go corner them.
But has anyone ever said no?
Not really.
Because a lot of times people just want to tell someone. That's
I try to reassure them like, hey, like I'm only going to go to the elders if I think it's in your best interest, and I'm here to help. And that usually satisfies people. I tell them like, look, I'm not going to go right away to the elders, and I'd like to help you if I can, but the only reason I go to them is if I feel like I can't be the one to help you, or you need more help than I can offer. And generally that soothes people enough, their worries or concerns enough when I present it, not from this like legalistic, I'm trying to guard my bases kind of standpoint. Like I want to cover myself from what is it? I come at it more from the angle of like,
I genuinely care about you.
Yeah. And if you need more help than I can provide, that's what the elders are for. And so.
Okay. So that covers someone telling you something that it could be harmful to themselves or the situation that they're involved with.
Let's come back to the Samson one, because you brought up a good point earlier, John, about how secrets can create a temptation.
Yeah. So, here's the thing is, for example, I think my wife and I have kind of an unwritten rule that we generally will share things with each other. And what we share with each other, we don't really share with other people. Yeah. I feel like your spouse is there to help you process and to get through things. And I just always kind of had that in my head that as husbands, we kind of do share things.
If it's getting gossipy, I won't. Just because she's my wife doesn't necessarily mean she needs to know.
Well, you want to remove temptation from that as well.
Everything. Well,
right?
I want to talk about removing temptation, but Nate, I didn't want to cut you off.
Thanks. What's your name?
That one time he doesn't want to cut you off.
No.
So I think we need to remove temptation.
So this actually happened to me a few months ago. Someone came to me that my wife and I both knew, and that person shared with me a big mistake that they had made.
What'd they do?
Well, let me tell you, and then I'll tell you their name.
I'm just testing you, Nate.
Yeah. So they came to me and they shared that to me, and they specifically asked, they said, I'm really embarrassed by this. Please don't share it with anyone. And I honored that. I told them, I won't share it with anyone. I won't even share it with my wife. And when I revealed it to my wife, no, I didn't tell my wife, but I shared that a person that we both know is having a struggle and that sort of thing. I said, they asked me not to share it with you, just because it's very embarrassing. And she was like, okay, totally understood. And so in that instance, I was keeping information from my wife, but she had no need to have that information. It wasn't going to make things better.
I'm curious. Did she know? Did she know you met with this person?
Oh, yeah.
And, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's probably, because I was going to bring up the idea, how do we guard against this temptation? And my answer was going to be, well, if you have a secret and you intend to keep it a secret, like you've decided it's something that
Doesn't need to be shared.
doesn't need to be shared, and I do need to hold on to this and not
Yeah.
become a gossip, I would say your best approach is don't tell someone you have a secret then.
Oh, yeah.
But that situation, your situation is a little different because she knew you met with a person. And so like, she's already curious.
Yeah.
She's expecting me to tell her. I just need
Yeah.
to snip, what's the
Nip
phrase?
it in the bud.
Nip it in the bud right
Yeah,
now. So that's a little different scenario, but I was thinking like John, it's really eating away at me. I actually have a secret right now I'm keeping for someone that affects you. And by telling you this, now it kind of alters the dynamic in our friendship because, and I can't tell you though, John. And now
you should see John's
now
face.
it's going to bother you because
are you talking? I know what you're doing.
do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. Cause you're not going to get it out of me. I'm going to keep it a secret till it comes out on its own.
Cool.
But now this alters.
Now Nate feels left
I
out.
feel really well. No, I was gonna say I feel really awkward. Hey, Nate,
I can tell Nate as long as you don't tell John.
you already did, and I won't tell him.
Okay.
But okay, so I actually do have a secret from John.
But you're providing that intrigue.
But the thing is when you go
He
around
didn't actually
saying,
tell me, Jeff.
I've got a secret, and that's
people
maybe,
do that all the time. Is they provide intrigue and then it's.
but I'm not going to tell you.
Sure.
Oh, okay,
Or they say, yeah, never mind. I said too
But
much.
then the
Or I
person-
shouldn't say that.
but then the person you said that to is going to ask question after question
Sure.
until you reveal something, and then you say, "Oh, well, you already figured it out by now. Let me just tell you."
Yeah.
You're inviting
Oh.
questioning. If you're going to keep it a secret, then
Keep it a secret.
then just shut up about it and don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
tell someone you've got a secret, like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just did to John. Because it's going to bug him. He's pretending like it doesn't bother him. And I think that comes back to the Samson story is he shouldn't have told her in the first place. Oh, there's a secret to my strength.
Yeah. When my dad was an elder, I wasn't privy to all the conversations that the elders had, right? Like, it's not like he came home just sharing all the things about this person, that person. But I did hear my parents talk about things a lot, and I think that that's kind of how I always just envision.
Did you put on the headphones but not listen to things so they
No,
would
I
think
just
you're
knew
listening
that-
to music?
When people are talking about something, but they aren't really talking about
You know what
something.
I really miss is when you used to be able to pick up the house line phone
Oh.
and spy on other
yeah.
calls, man.
Oh,
Now, when
Yeah.
someone is talking about something, but they're not really saying anything, you can kind of get that.
You do
And-
that all the time.
Yeah. On the podcast. Wow.
Sorry, John.
That's a
I
really
love you,
good-
bro.
That's a really good burn right there. So I guess I just
Kyle,
always
soothe him.
I always
Soothe him.
heard that kind of a relationship and just kind of in myself said, that's how that kind of relationship should be. It should be close and confidential and sharing. But yeah, there are times where I do have, people tell me something that it really has, she wouldn't even know or care. It has
Yeah.
no bearing to.
Yeah.
Does anyone really like to keep a secret? I mean, that's
If people know that you have a secret,
but in general,
then it gives
it's
you
really
a sense of power.
I don't know. I don't really like holding on to stuff that, because it's nice to not have that
Responsibility.
over things. So
Mhm.
I'd rather just not know. But in
It's like
some
that-
cases,
It's like the quote from the beginning of this episode from SpongeBob. Patrick had a secret box, and SpongeBob was so bothered that Patrick had a secret. And the more Patrick hyped up this secret box and what was in it, it just made SpongeBob want to know the contents of the box all the more till it almost ruined their friendship. I've learned everything about life from the Bible and SpongeBob and Star Trek.
and Simpsons.
There's got to
The
be.
Simpsons is an awful show. We don't talk about The Simpsons.
Was
Yeah.
that a secret?
So
It's
there was
literally on the podcast. It was-
So I think there's got to be something said about the importance of keeping something confidential that someone has asked you to keep confidential. Because so for instance, there are certain people that I know that cannot keep secrets, or perhaps they cannot keep something confidential about this person or that person. They will share it with this person over here who they have a good relationship with. But when that happens, it's like it ends up being a chain reaction. Yeah, I'll keep a secret, but I'll just share it with this one person who I'm really close with. But then that person then shares it with one person that they're really close with. And all of a sudden, this thing that was confidential,
Worst kept secret.
maybe I shared it with And I'm not saying this hasn't happened to me, but maybe I shared it with an elder and then they shared it with another elder or their.
It's almost like when we do a mass text to our church family, it might be quicker to just go to that one person, that one person, and tell them the news, but say, keep it a secret.
Yeah,
and it would go faster than a text thread.
Yeah. If there is a secret, keep it a secret. Don't even tell that one person that, you're really close with. If it's appropriate to keep that secret, just don't
there are some
share
things.
it.
There are some things, if it's appropriate, there's some things that we just shouldn't keep as secrets. And I'll say one category. If you look at Psalm 101, it says in verse 5, there are some things like if it's something someone told you in confidence, or it's something that for whatever reason you decide is in the best interest to keep to yourself, or there's a lot of reasons to keep a secret, but what about some reasons not to? Psalm 101 verse 5 says, whoever secretly slanders his neighbor, him I will destroy. And that's really essentially gossip that we're talking about, but I like that it talks about secretly. It's okay to keep a secret for others, but to share secrets about others, I think that's where this is crossing a line. I think that's what this verse addresses. If you share your opinion about someone who's not present, you're secretly slandering them. It's like a secret, like, if after this show, Nate and I talk and you're like, man, we need to get a third chair in here because John is just not cutting it. But then when I see John, I'm like, oh, good work today, John.
Yeah.
I'm disingenuous to his face, but I'm secretly giving you my real opinion.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
To share a secret about someone, my secret opinion. If that's my opinion of John and it slanders him to someone else, I should just keep it to myself.
Well,
and I should probably work on my attitude.
And there's like a lot of proverbs about the one I was looking at was Proverbs 16:28. With a dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisper separates close friends. Essentially, exactly what you said. But then there's also 11:13, where it's whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps the thing covered. Is that the one you said earlier?
Was that Proverbs 11?
11:13?
Yeah.
Do we make is there a difference between a secret and confession? Such as a lot of times people share secrets, they're not necessarily about themselves.
Well, it depends.
All the time.
Like
Sometimes they are.
You could confess in a public way, and that's a way of disclosing rather than concealing or confiding.
And some people don't do that, though. They confess to one another, according to.
I mean, if I asked you to keep it a secret, then that would probably be like, let's say I did something wrong to you, John, and then I came to you and I confessed to you that I made that mistake. And I said, please don't share this with others. I'm kind of embarrassed about it. But then after that, do you have an obligation to not share the wrong that I did to you because I was embarrassed about it and I requested that you not share?
I think it's because that what makes this difficult a lot of times is this is one of those areas where we feel that the circumstances around the secret and the actual secret is subjective. It depends. Right? We're always like, it depends.
Yeah.
That was you did something towards me and you confessed to me. But what if you're just confessing something you did out there? Kind of like Kyle talking about someone in adultery or something.
An example that popped in my head would be Joseph and Mary. When he was under the impression that she had been unfaithful to him, she's pregnant and I know I'm not the dad. But he didn't need God to tell him this. In fact, God had to say, keep her as your wife. But Joseph, just out of his own kindness, said, I'm
not going to share that. Yeah.
If it's adultery, she could be stoned to death. And I don't need that to happen to her. That's my impression of why he intended to put her away quietly or secretly. He was trying to conceal for her benefit. And I think there's some idea to that too, that if someone has confessed something to me or confided in me and it does me wrong, and I feel like I should be able to tell people about it, but if it's in their best interest, it's just like in 1 Corinthians 6 when he says, if you go to a court of law, you've already lost. Like you're taking the name of Christ to unbelievers, just take the loss, and that's actually a win. And sometimes I try to remember that as a Christian, sometimes taking a loss can be a win. If it glorifies God or helps someone out, even if it puts me at a loss, it's a win because I did the right thing for the right reason.
Do we have a set of, I feel like what's beneficial in a conversation like this, in this area in life, is a 1, 2, 3 like set of criteria that we look to when we have this information, right? Something to filter this information through. Do you have 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, I just have one, the Bible.
No, but the things that come to my mind is just like, is this my story to tell? Does this sharing edify or destroy? Are there exceptions to this rule? Like, do we have these kinds of
filter it through the greatest commandment?
Yeah.
What would be in God's best interest, and what would be in this person's best interest?
Amen.
And that's what I would say would be the most important lens to filter these kinds of situations too.
And if you genuinely aren't sure, maybe you can ask someone who's wiser than you in a way that doesn't reveal the secret.
Or just go anonymously on a Facebook chat group and ask for help.
Yeah, there you go. Make sure you put their name, whoever the secret's about.
It's so funny though. You can have an episode like this, and people are there's probably like a dozen people who maybe listen to this that we know who are like,
that's it. There's only a dozen people that listen to this.
I know that. I mean, there might be a dozen people who think that this is about their secret or something. Like,
yeah.
If you think I'm talking about you, I probably am, but I'm also at the same time I'm not.
Yeah.
Just so you all know, I don't even know who we're talking about.
It's not in result to anyone specific, but it's something I feel like over years we kind of deal with, right? It's just a natural thing. You're always hearing, and then what if you hear things about other people like you weren't even really needing and necessarily wanting to hear, and someone just offers things up and it feels like a secret. And now, do you have that obligation because you heard it offhand from someone else?
I think one final consideration is, and this is an absolute don't conceal, don't keep your sin secret. Proverbs 28 and verse 13. And I love this. You think the gospel is New Testament. The gospel is the whole Bible. And it says in Proverbs 28 and verse 13, he who covers his sins will not prosper, but whoever confesses and forsakes them will have mercy. That's what God wants from us. Go back to the very first sin, Adam and Eve in the garden. And what do? God shows up and they're hiding. They made crude garments out of fig leaves and they're trying to cover up their shame. And God wants us to simply expose and confess our sins, not cover up and conceal. So this can take the form of finding a trusted brother or sister that you can confide in. As the Bible, like James chapter 5 tells us, confess your sins to one another. We need to be humble enough to do that. Doesn't mean I need to tell you every time I've done something wrong. Nate, I call you up at 2 a.m. I just had an impure thought. Or Nate, I just was greedy. I saw something on TV and wanted it and I became greedy. I need to confess to you. It's like, okay, don't take it to an extreme, but let's be honest. We don't have that problem. We have the other problem. We never confess our sins. We never confess our sins.
But what about the other side of that too?
Always confess it to God. At minimum.
What about the other side of that too, where do we need to have grace given to people knowing it's a hard thing to decide to keep something to yourself or share with other people? We should expect people to hold confidence, but also sometimes...
Yeah, but I'm never telling you anything ever again.
Sometimes I feel like if I've shared something with Nate and Nate felt like he needed to talk to someone else about it and to either give me advice or to do something else, I feel like maybe I need to give him a little bit of grace in the sense of when I'm trying to be open with people, other people are also trying to do that. If I've done that in the spirit of, like you said, passing it through the filter of the grace command.
Yeah.
If I've done that in a spirit of love, and I might need to also trust that person has my best interests at heart and he's not just gossiping about me, but maybe he did talk to an elder. Maybe he felt like he needed to have that spiritual guidance and to know how to guide me. And maybe it slipped somewhere because things happen. Yeah. Sometimes that's not something I should have said. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just feel like maybe giving people a little bit of grace in that as well, because some things happen and it's not always out of malice or gossip intent.
Well, and we're not perfect. If we look in the mirror and do some proper self-examination, Ecclesiastes 7 verse 21 says it this way: also do not take to heart everything people say, lest you hear your servant cursing you. For many times also your own heart has known that even you have cursed others. Like, if you're mad at someone for disclosing a secret or doing what they thought was best, but it wasn't what you wanted, you've probably done that to someone else yourself, if you're being honest. Which we should always be honest. If I'm being honest, we should always be honest.
It's okay to be deceptive, but we should be honest. Well, Kyle, that was a great topic. Very interesting. I think very applicable.
Proverbs usually are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's true.
hopefully you've
That's true.
listened to this and now which of the three of us is most honorable and trustworthy.
I don't think it's a secret.
One thing you definitely should not keep a secret is this podcast.
Oh, I
Like
that.
it, share it, subscribe, comment on it. We want to hear from you guys. What topics do you want to hear?
Mic drop. Yeah. Don't keep it a secret. Secretly, I was going to say that, but you beat me.
Then
God.
what is deception and why is
Yeah.
go back.
And next week,
Deception.
what's
What's the
deception?
point with the Samson Delilah bit?
I mean, deception
because you
isn't-
never finished that. You never
Deception
finished
isn't always bad. Where are you going, Nate? Because this is
Part of the podcast.
yeah. This is
that. My goodness,
Sorry, bro.
smallest,
Nate's
smallest
Nate's
bladder
got a
in the
spring
world.
leak.
Yeah.
No. What was the Samson Delilah bit? I don't think you went there and then we sidetracked from it. You said it was
Oh, Samson should have just never disclosed in the first place that there was some secret gimmick to his strength.
but that there is that temptation, right? If having knowledge and information, it definitely is a
Once she
temptation
figured out
to.
that there is some sort of secret to it, she was not going to stop till she found out what it was. So he should have just kept his secret secret.
Well, Nate's not here now, so you can tell me the secret you weren't telling me.
No, I mean,
Kyle.
you'll learn eventually. You'll find out eventually.
Is it something that I'll be happy about?
No, stop probing.
Is it something? See, that's what we do too, huh? This is we're mocking this up. This is a real scenario. Now, tell me a little bit of information so I can guess.
No, I can't.
Then why did you tell me in the first place and get
Because
my?
I thought it was a good illustration.
Get me all tantalized now.
And now
I
you're
feel
you're seeing the change dynamic in our friendship now.
Yeah, I don't like it.
But I can't tell you.
I feel like you have more power than I do right now because you have something I want.
I'd be betraying her trust or his trust. I'd be betraying his or her trust if I said this.
Kyle, that's so rude. I give you grace.
I love you, Lily. I deceived my daughter this morning. I told her she could have one more minute watching Coco Melon, and I really set the timer for 45 seconds. Don't lie, you've done that.
I usually don't even set a timer. I just
5 more minutes.
yeah.
And then in however long you feel it.
Well, we just do like when they're cleaning their room, like
Yeah.
5 minutes. And it's like I really don't care as long as they're working. It's just to get them to stop goofing off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a bit deceptive.
Yeah. Is that okay? I don't know. No, I do think intention matters. I think
Should we do a whole podcast on deception?
I think we should. I think
Okay.
we should.
Okay.
I like that. Very good. Yeah. Deception.
It's like when I promised my sermon it's going to be a short one, and it's not. Remember
You've
when I said
been-
my sermon would be short? I lied.
You've been deceived.
John, what do you think?
John's being oddly quiet today.
John,
He is good. He is good. Like, I don't know how we would do this podcast without John. Kyle, you'd be pretty good.
Hey. do you want to know the secret I'm keeping from John?
Are we recording right now?
Oh, I probably shouldn't say it then, but he'll hear this when he comes back in the room and listens to it later. And
That's good. That's funny. Yeah, I don't know what it is, and that's okay.
And he'll get so excited when he hears me say that until you say, oh, but isn't he recording? Then he'd be like,
Oh man.